Are you thinking about pursuing graduate school in biomedical engineering? If so, in this video, I'm going to break down the key differences between the master's and PhD degrees in biomedical engineering. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Rahul. I'm a third year biomedical engineering PhD student, but I wasn't always a PhD student. I actually started out as a master's student and I made the switch from master's to PhD at the end of my second year of the master's. So I've been in both programs and I'm here to help you decide which one is right for you. So the first thing I'd like to cover is the fundamental differences between the two degrees. The master's degree, typically what it entails is applying existing knowledge to a new problem. Typically someone else has already done research on this subject and you're going to apply it and extend the research of typically someone else's PhD thesis. Whereas in a PhD, what you're going to be doing is creating new knowledge that maybe some future master's student may expand on in the future, but the idea is that you're creating something that's entirely new, whereas a master's degree is more of an application or extension of existing research. The master's degree is typically more structured. Typically it ranges from 1 to 2 years, and it covers a very high level understanding of a specific topic within biomedical engineering, whereas PhD is far more in depth, but it's ultra specialized. Additionally, we have to talk about who determines whether or not you qualify for a master's level degree or a PhD degree. So a master's is typically decided within your biomedical engineering department. If you complete the paperwork, if you complete your thesis and your internal committee decides that it's good enough, it's master's worthy, then you get your master's degree. Whereas in a PhD degree, you typically bring in outside committee members as well. Actually, you're required to have an outside committee member from a different department to kind of ensure that your work is up to standard. And additionally, many biomedical engineering departments have a publication requirement in order to publish, in order to graduate with your PhD. In my case, you need 3 first author papers published in peer-reviewed journals in order to graduate. But obviously this varies and there's exceptions to the rule. Now, both of these two degrees have vastly different time commitments. The master's degree, like I said before, is only 1 to 2 years, and you can even do it part-time. Actually, during the first year of my master's degree, I was doing it part-time, and I was working in industry while doing the master's. I will say, though, that your progress will be much slower, and you'll be towards the 2+ year end if you do it part-time, but it is totally doable to do a master's degree in BME part-time. Additionally, if you've worked in industry for greater than 2 years, oftentimes if you work for a big company, they will actually pay for you to get your master's degree. Something else to keep in mind. On the other side, the PhD typically takes maybe 4 to 8 years is the typical range that I see, with the most common graduation length being 5 years. Both the master's and PhD levels require coursework in biomedical engineering, at least in the United States. I know it may be different in other countries where the PhD is purely research focused. So typically the first year of your graduate program is the same between master's and PhD, where you take required core classes to demonstrate proficiency in your department's skills. So in biomedical engineering, it's going to be some math, some physics, some engineering classes. Now, there's actually some additional coursework that you may need to take to satisfy the PhD requirements, but typically these are elective courses and you can take them in a way that they align with your actual research goals, which is something that I did as well. And the final difference between the master's and PhD degrees are the career goals of the people who pursue them. So typically, a master's degree pursuer will want to go towards industry, typically in the med device or pharma biotech industries. Whereas PhD students, I would say it's, at least in my school, there's a heavy skew towards industry, but they're specifically looking for the R&D research roles where they get to lead a research team. So a scientist or a research engineering role. So think about that when you're making this decision. The second category that I want to go over when you're deciding these between the master's and the PhD are the pros and cons of each one. So let's start with the master's. The master's degree, the pros are it's faster. You can finish in 1 to 2 years, and this will give you a faster track to industry, and you can make more money right off the bat. And there's also more job opportunities at the master's level than there are at the PhD level. There's far more people and there's far more jobs that require just a master's degree. And it kind of makes sense, right? Because the more specialized you get, the less jobs there will be for that special skill. There's also less uncertainty in the master's degree. You can get a master's degree, not have a clear goal with exactly what job you want, and most of the time you'll be set. And because of that, I would say that there's a higher return on investment for your money if you choose the master's degree over the PhD degree. Because in 2 years, you can make that money back relatively fast in industry. Because master's level engineering roles actually pay a decent amount. But the time it takes to complete the PhD make it not as easy of an ROI decision to make. But we'll get into that. Right now let's focus on the master's. So those are the pros of the master's degree. The cons of the master's degree are that you have a limited ceiling. So you're not an expert in your field with a master's degree. You're just a master. You're not so specialized to instantly you still have to work through the ranks through industry after you complete your master's degree. And kind of in that same vein, you have less depth of knowledge on your subject area, and you pretty much have no options in academia if you just have a master's degree. And finally, the obvious con is that oftentimes you're going to have to pay for the master's degree. In the PhD, I feel like a lot of people don't know this. You don't actually pay to do a PhD. In very edge cases, yes, you do, but oftentimes you're going to get funding and you're going to get a stipend to do your PhD. It's not much, but you still get paid to do it. So now let's move on to the PhD. The pros of doing it is that you become an expert in your area of research, and that can give you significant leverage in whatever career that you go into. Most people, I'm talking now PhDs in general, want to go into academia. While in biomedical engineering, I feel like it's very unique in that many people want to go into industry and into R&D with a PhD. But the PhD does open the door for academic careers, which is not possible with the master's degree. I'd also say you have higher earning potential with the PhD than you would with a master's degree. Because you're more specialized, you have more leverage, you have higher risk in that maybe there isn't an industry need for the specific area of research that you are an expert in. But if there is, you will be compensated significantly more than you would with a PhD than you would with a master's. So if you're going to be strategic about your research area and it aligns with a need in industry, you can get compensated far more doing the PhD than you would in the master's. Additionally, if you are in those highly sought PhD positions, you have much higher job security than you would with a master's degree. And that's why the PhDs in artificial intelligence and machine learning in biomedical engineering are really, really sought after right now. The cons of doing a PhD in biomedical engineering is that, one, it takes a long time. So you have to be in a position to be able to take 4 to 8 years off of your, not off, I mean, you're still making some money and you're progressing your career, but the opportunity cost is significant. You could be making that much more money in industry, or having gotten just a master's and going straight into industry, you could have made the difference between the salary and your PhD stipend, and it's a significant amount if you work out the numbers. The PhD stipend is about 35K a year, whereas the average biomedical engineering salary is around maybe 80K per year, and let's bump it up to 90 to 100K if you have your master's, and then you subtract out the tuition for the master's. You're gonna be sitting on quite a lot of money. That's about what, like 40K per year times 5. That's 200 grand of a difference that we're talking here. Now, if you get a more specialized, higher paying job after the PhD, then it balances itself out. Sorry, my phone ran out of storage. But the idea was that if you're going to do a PhD and want to go into industry, it's important to think about what skills that you're going to gain when you do your PhD, such that you're marketable and you can make the difference in money back such that it's greater than the opportunity cost of doing the PhD in the first place. The cons, I guess I already was talking about the cons of the PhD, but the cons I was going to talk about are that it's longer to do a PhD, obviously. It can take a mental toll on you. You have to be kind of mentally resilient, and the PhD does kind of build mental fortitude. You can think of this as a pro or a con, because it is inevitable that things will go wrong during your PhD and you have to push through. And like I was just saying before, there is a potential to have a lower financial return of your PhD than you would with your master's degree, which is why I say for most people, the master's degree will have a greater return on investment than the PhD degree. And a big reason for this is that for most of the industry jobs out there, the PhD will often lead you to be too specialized for a job in that given area, whereas the master's degrees person may be cheaper, but they could be trained on that job and get promoted to do whatever the company needs to do. So that's just something to keep in mind. So how do you decide which graduate degree to pursue, the master's or the PhD? Well, it depends on what your goals are. If your goals are to go into industry as fast as possible, or to go into industry at all and you want to just get in there fast, unless you're in an extremely hot topic that you foresee to be a very hot topic in the next 5 years, then I would just go with the master's degree. You can get a higher return on investment, and you can just fast track your way into industry, and you can set yourself apart from the people who just have a bachelor's degree. Now, if you want to lead a research team in an R&D team, or you want to go into academia, then I'd say go for the PhD, because the PhD is a prerequisite for those roles. You also really need to think about the time that you have. The master's degree is much faster, and the PhD is a very long-term investment. If you're young and you have the time to spare and you think it would be a great experience for you and your career, then by all means go for the PhD if you want to do it. But maybe if you're older and you need to make more money fast, then I would recommend going to the master's degree. And the last thing to consider is the type of personality that you have. If you're the type of person who prefers to have a lot of structure in their life and you like to have certainty, then I would definitely go for the master's degree. If you love to embrace the challenge and you kind of feel good doing hard things, then go for the PhD. And that's one of the reasons that I chose to switch to the PhD as well. So that kind of wraps up the main breakdown between the master's and PhD degrees. I really hope that this helps you make a decision for which graduate degree to pursue. If you like this content, I'd recommend checking out my last video on the brutal truths about the PhD that I wish I knew before I started.